Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of the Sports Insight with your host Alamdar Khan. Yes, as you know, we give you sports information from all across the globe. You guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is at the rate of Indus News Sports. That works both for Twitter and for Instagram. But anyways, we'll go to the headlines first. And yes, from the world of hockey, Tokyo 2020, the semi-finals, Belgium beat India 5-2, whereas Australia also beat Germany 3-1 to enter the finals. Yes, from the world of basketball, in terms of Olympics, Slovenia crushed Germany 94-70 to reach the semis, while the USA beat Spain 95-81 to enter the second quarterfinal. And news from the Kashmir Premier League, former England cricketer Monty Pansar actually pulls out from Kashmir Premier League due to political pressure. And yes, from the world of canoeing in Olympics, New Zealand's sprint canoeist Lisa Carrington showed her class with 2 quick-fire goals at the Sea Forest Waterway. And yes, those were the headlines. And talking about Olympics, yes, we'll start off Olympics in-depth analysis with regards to Olympics hockey because it's an interesting show put up, and we'll start off with Belgium that actually managed to beat India to enter their second successive Olympic final in the field of hockey. But to discuss the in-depth analysis, we have the wisdom of Mohisha. Mohisha, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So, sir, we'll start off with this particular match. Obviously, Belgium managing to win against India 5-2, and I think Dragficker Hendricks actually managed to complete his hat-trick. So I think it's a major goal, major update with regard to their victory. So how do you see this match to begin with?
Yeah, pretty interesting match. Everything went down to the wire, and everything, it was in the last fourth quarter, that finally Belgium surged ahead, and through Hendricks first converted plenty corner, then doubled it up with a plenty stroke goal. And then when there was no one in their striking circle, Indian striking circle, all the players were up front trying to draw the goal level. Right. There was an empty goal, and striker from Belgium scored the fifth. But till the third quarter, everything was neck and neck. Right. Both teams played brilliant hockey, and there was a fabulous footwork from India, no doubt about that. And they were up to the mark, and no doubt Belgium one of the better teams today in international hockey. But India has put up good fight till the third quarter. But once the game entered into the fourth quarter, India was nowhere. They actually were a bit they were looking nervous, especially their strikers. They were not coming up to the striking circle of Belgium goal, and even in defense, they made a couple of mistakes that resulted into back-to-back plenty corners for Belgium, and one plenty corner converted into the plenty stroke that was utilized fully.
Right. And if we look into, as you mentioned, the fourth quarter, I think there's definitely a lot of pressure in terms of the situation, because I've had a word in terms of coming into that fourth quarter, you're already too tired and you're too frustrated. So I think obviously India was trying their level best, because it was 3-2 till the third quarter, but I think it was the fourth quarter that actually made the magic.
That's right. It was the fourth quarter that actually decided the match. India, majority of the teams from Asia, they are not at par as far as the stamina is concerned. And though they start very briskly, they play fast hockey. But when the time goes up, and when the fourth comes, they got a bit slow. This is a usual trend in Asian hockey. And that's why I think the Belgium players, Belgium forwards and defenders, they played their game, continued to play their game with the same vein which was there during the first 3 quarters. But Indians forwards and defense was a bit slow, and they put pressure on Indian team, and Belgium utilized that weakness on part of India, and scored 3 goals, one through 20 corner, one through 20 stroke, and the other through forward, opening goal screen.
Right, and I would also want to, add up to the fact that, the second semi-final that was, underway, obviously Australia managed to win
Actually,
3-1.
the thing is that Australia and Belgium were favored to make it to the final. They are the 2 best teams in the world hockey today.
Right.
They've got brilliant, combination when it comes to the forward line. They've got good halfbacks. They've got good defenders.
Right.
So I think they deservedly they are in the final, and one must say that Germany team that was not playing to the level to the international level standard.
Right.
6 months back, they have made it to the semi-finals, and I think that was it. They have done enough now. Germany and India will play for the bronze medal.
Right.
And Australia and Belgium will play for the gold medal.
Right, and talking about, obviously, as you mentioned, it's going to be very interesting for the bronze medal because I think it's very important for India to show their worth right now in terms of their performance. Because as you mentioned, the main teams that were actually favorites were Australia and Belgium. So I think the final is going to be a super clash. But how do you see the one that is for the bronze medal?
I think bronze medal battle will be more a battle between Asian and European hockey.
Right.
India is playing good, but I don't know what would be their mental state of mind after losing the semi-finals. Sometimes you go under pressure, and sometimes you lose these matches in hockey if you don't play according to the required standards. So it will remain to be seen whether India will continue playing with the same standard which they have shown so far in the tournament, or there will be a different side in the for a match for the bronze medal match.
Right. I would also want your in-depth analysis, Moisha, in terms of you've represented the country, you've been there outside in terms of Olympics. When Pakistan hockey team went there, got us the gold. I know you would definitely have an idea in terms of how the air, the energy, the ambience is. So how do you see that taking you back there in those Olympics that you went with Pakistan hockey team?
Yeah, almost 4 times been with the team to Olympic Games. And I remember Pakistan playing in the Beijing Olympic in 1996 Atlanta Olympic.
Right.
Pakistan is famous for producing mega stars, good players, and we are unlucky to we don't have that type of stars which were used to see in late 80s, early 90s, or in 70s. Right. But the thing is, it is a very people know Pakistan because of hockey. Around the world, wherever you go, people still believe that Pakistan can produce good teams, can establish a good team. Why they are missing Olympic Games? That was the case in Rio in 2016. People were starting asking the reasons why Pakistan is not there in the Olympics. So I think chances are there that Pakistan would, inshallah, we hope and everyone hopes that Pakistan will go on to establish and qualify for the next Olympics to be held in Paris in 3 years' time.
Right.
But the thing is, no doubt about that, we badly missed Pakistan team this fall in this Olympics, and one hopes that the required work will be done at domestic level to help raise a good competitive team for the next international event.
For sure, sir. One last question. What's your prediction with regards to the finals in terms of, obviously, Belgium versus Australia? Because both, as
I
you
think
mentioned,
it will be a cracker final, no doubt about that. Both teams are capable of beating each other. Australia has a tremendous goal scoring potential. But Belgium is a balanced side, good defense, good halfback, good forward line. And it will be a battle between Australian forward line and the Belgian defense, and possibly Australia has gotten some edge over Belgium going into the final.
Do you think the home ground advantage, obviously for Australia, it's a completely different ball game, and when we talk about Belgium, obviously it's a European team, so it is going to be super tricky in terms of them being in Japan and facing each other specifically in the finals of the hockey.
With no crowd around, I think that has been that your question is, I think, a bit not relevant this Olympics possibly, because there is no crowd pressure, there is no crowd smoke, there is nothing there when you enter the sports arena this time around in Olympics.
Right.
But still, I believe that Australia has got potentially a better team.
Right.
And they are a bit got a bit edged for Belgium going into the final year.
Right. Thank you, Moisha, for being a part of the show and adding your wisdom with regards to the world of hockey and Olympics. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So as you guys have, finally now we know what's exactly going to happen. It's Belgium versus Australia. It is going to be interesting to see what truly happens in the finals of the hockey. And not to forget, then we have the bronze medal where India will be facing Germany. Anyways, guys, we'll take a quick break. Once we get back from the break, there is more coming in from the world of sports. See you guys after the break. And yes, welcome back from the break. And yes, before the break, we were discussing the world of hockey in Olympics. Yes, a major progress with regards to that, but not to forget that we have more news coming in because things are flowing way further in terms of the Olympics. So talking about the Olympics, we want to focus on the next updated story, which is from the world of basketball. Yes, we're going to talk about Slovenia crushing down Germany, getting their points up there, 94-70. Not only that, we will be talking about how United States of America managed to beat Spain 95-81. To discuss the in-depth analysis, we have with us Pete Toll. Pete, welcome to the show.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate you having me on here and being here.
Great. So Pete, we'll start off. We'll firstly talk about how Slovenia managed to win against Germany and obviously reaching the semis, and then we'll further go to the United States of America, beating Spain and getting their spot up there. So how do you think in terms of Slovenia managing to get there? Because I think one of the teams that actually had the momentum on from the very start, and I think it would be very interesting to see how things shape up for the semi-finals and then the finals. So how do you see this current match to begin with?
Well, Slovenia really came out. They have Luka Doncic, which is obviously one of the best players, not only internationally, but obviously in the NBA. Luka was able to have a near triple-double, 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists. Didn't shoot it too great, but he was able to have help from Zoran Dragic, who, if any international fans know, he's had a 9-season career internationally and a couple years not so favorable in the NBA. Right. He led all of the scorers with 27 points, came out on fire, started out 5 for 5 from the three-point line, finished 5 of 7, 11 from 13 from the floor. And then they got, their usual contribution on the board from Mike Tobey, right, who, for those that don't know, has also played 5 seasons internationally. Didn't play very much in the NBA, but he does all kind of the gritty rebounding, putbacks, things like that, things that really help in international play.
Right.
Slovenia was able to get off to the quick start in the first quarter, and that's what really kind of propelled them.
Right, and looking into, obviously, in terms of the quarters, all the quarters actually managed to show us how Slovenia is up and ready, and they're up here for the gold, and Slovenia is just ranked 16 in the world. So I think right now, them as a team are pretty much gelled up, so I think it would be super interesting to see them grow, and I think because if you look at their momentum from the very start of the games in Olympics, I think they have their spot on.
Yeah, and with Slovenia now, they'll actually play France, who just beat Italy in a narrow defeat. And it's going to be interesting because the winner of that is guaranteed a medal, whether, it's going to be bronze, silver, or gold, who knows? But it's definitely interesting because Luka has really kind of gotten the international media attention, but I think really the MVP of the team has to go to Zoran Dragic across the board for just his stellar play to get Slovenia where they are right now.
Right. And we'll also want to talk about the second match that took place. We'd surely want to discuss your in-depth analysis. Obviously, USA beating Spain 95-81. Obviously, Kevin Durant led with 29 points. And I think in terms of their momentum finally USA is actually there where they're supposed to be. So how did you see this match, and how far do you see the United States of America is going to go in terms of their performance in the world of basketball?
Well, it's been a roller coaster ride, to say the least, for Team USA fans. Ricky Rubio was able to come out on fire. I mean, he played the best I've ever seen Ricky Rubio play for Spain, and really gave the U.S. a challenge starting out the game, because at one point, the U.S. just couldn't hit anything. 4 for 17 from three. They couldn't rebound. Showed no aggression whatsoever on either side of the ball.
Right.
And then it's like a switch flipped in the second half. The U.S. came out fantastic on both sides of the ball. Of course, you mentioned Kevin Durant, and 13 of his game-changing points came in that third quarter. And that big run was the difference, where Spain just didn't have enough offensively to keep up with the U.S. Moving forward, the U.S., just their weakness is just not having size and rebounding effort. I do think that they get the gold medal, but it's not a sure thing at this point.
Right, and if we look back into how it all started, because the talk of the town was the United States losing the first match when they got to the Olympics. And I think at that very moment, I think a lot of people had different questions in their minds, a lot of spectators, a lot of experts actually, but they all wanted to see the USA team gel in. And I think they're pretty much gelled in to be at a point where they can grab the gold or the silver or even the bronze.
Yeah, and looking at the team, a lot of basketball analysts have been worried about the fit of the players themselves and then the system that Team USA has been running. Because in the NBA, obviously the players are used to the pick and roll, and that's where a majority of their offense comes from. So guys like Dame Lillard, Devin Booker, those guys that try to rely on the pick and roll to get most of their points, they're not having the greatest Olympic showing because they're playing outside of their comfort zone. Then you have a guy like Kevin Durant that can play all different styles, and you're seeing the difference in just the level of play from the offensive end showing. And defensively, you have, you need guys like a Draymond Green, but I think for the future, the U.S. has seen that they need more of those kind of do-it-all players on the defensive end, paired with more of a lead ball handler that's willing to get the team involved. And then you can piece together the Kevin Durant, the Jason Tatum, things like that.
Right. But to be very honest, we're so looking forward to who do you think will go out there to face the United States of America? It's either going to be Australia or Argentina, because we now know that one of the semifinals is going to be Slovenia with France. How do you see the second one? Because, for instance, if it all comes to an end to have the United States of America winning from one side and France from the other, it is going to be super tricky for them. It's going to be a lot of pressure on them. So how do you see this further developing for not only USA, but which team would they face?
I think Argentina has the edge just from a rebounding and just from a size standpoint.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be a big defeat. I think it's going to be a close game down to the wire, kind of like the France-Italy game.
Right.
Where a team is going to be able to pull it out at the end. I think just from Argentina's standpoint, just the experience and just some of the guys that they have, which are NBA caliber guys.
Right.
I think that they're able to get the narrow defeat. Now, when it comes to the U.S., that size is going to be able to come in. They don't have the greatest speed, and that's where I think the U.S. can take advantage of Argentina.
Right.
It's just going to come down to, are the U.S. coming out aggressive and playing together and not playing individual basketball?
But Pete, if we talk about big names, big teams, we talk about Kevin Durant, if we think, Brooklyn Nets were here to perform, or even Milwaukee Bucks could have come represented the USA team, things would have been different. But now, Team USA has finally decided to, gel in, not playing that individual game, which obviously we saw at the very start. So I'm just curious to see if this semifinal, the Team USA manages to get to the finals, and from the other semifinals, we get France. It's going to be another tricky journey for them to get to the goal, because that's how Team USA faced France at the very start of the tournament, and things were very tricky for them. So how do you see this developing further if this happens?
It's going to be tough. Rudy Gobert is there on the boards, can get easy finishes at the basket. The size of Rudy Gobert is going to make it tough for USA basketball because they don't have the size to kind of compete against that. Evan Fournier has been on fire for France all tournament, and he just signed a new massive contract with the New York Knicks in the NBA, so he's going to be motivated to show out even more with that. It's really going to be tough on Team USA. They're going to have to come out aggressive on the defensive side of the ball, get stopped early, which leads to transition buckets, easy baskets for Team USA, and that kind of gets them in a flow. And I think they'll be able to take it. It's not going to be easy, but if Team USA can play together, they'll surely be getting the gold.
Well, we are surely looking at Team USA. Thank you very much, Pete, for being a part of the show and discussing the world of Olympic basketball with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Great. So that we, and obviously he gave us an in-depth analysis of how things can develop with regards to the team's performance. We're talking about Team USA right now. Obviously, we still need to find out who's going to be the second team that they would actually face on the 5th of August. But not to forget, France and Slovenia are already in the semifinals. Hopefully, it would be an interesting journey in terms of basketball. Anyways, I'll quickly jump over to the next news. And yes, it's going to be interesting why I'm talking about Kashmir Premier League. The moment Kashmir Premier League actually developed, there were a lot of issues, a lot of voices from India's side, which is surely not the ethics of sports that is supposed to be followed. So the point is, they have came up with different conclusions. They have written, a letter. And the BCCI has actually written a letter to ICC, asking them that, we cannot have KPL, and then also announced that any team member that would participate in KPL will not be able to participate in other tournaments. So it's very tricky right now, and they're trying to stop it. And the strangest part is, with regards to KPL's recognition, this is surely a threatening sign in terms of sports. I think they should also understand the idea that when it's sports, it's sports. You just cannot make it, a political situation every time. And I think this is surely going to be something that has raised a lot of voice. And for KPL's free marketing, there's a lot of word on the internet, not to forget, which is obviously for their benefit, and I think things will shape up well. Even though talking about the former cricketer Monty Panersa, who actually pulled out, which is kind of tricky because they're trying to pull in all the individuals who are taking part in the KPL. On the contrary, Shahid Afridi just posted 3 days ago and wishing the best of luck to KPL. So it surely is going to be interesting for the fact that how things we are going to react to this, because ultimately it is a sporting tournament and it starts from the 6th of August in Muzaffarabad. Good luck to them. KP, all the best. Anyways, we'll jump over to the world of Olympics. Again, I'm going to talk about canoeing. Yes, talking about canoeist Lisa Carrington with a quick goal for New Zealand. Yes, she has got 2 quick goals for New Zealand. Not only that, Lisa first claimed her 3rd consecutive Olympic title in the K1 200-meter sprint. And she sets a new Olympic best to beat Spain's Teresa by 0.73 seconds. And not to forget, Carrington also teamed up against Catalin Regal to win K2 500-meter event. So I think it's 2 goals back-to-back. I think brilliant job done. Good luck to them ahead. Anyways, that was pretty much for the world of New Zealand. I think Olympics is that all about, it's all about getting the gold. But anyways, guys, if you want to reach out to us, you can on our social media handle, which is @Indus News Sports. That works both for Twitter and for Instagram. Anyways, till then, take good care of yourselves and bye-bye.